Hi everyone and welcome to Podcast 86. A few months ago now, I posted a meme on the community tab about Ultimate Spider-Man finding out that a movie was being made about him. However, some of you guys did actually want me to make a video about that time that happened in the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, which is what this video will be about. Where Peter did actually meet Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire while filming Spider-Man. However, before we get started, if at any point you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate if you could give this video a like, as that would really help out the channel. Thank you. Now let's jump in. Alright, so it actually starts with Ultimate Spider-Man issue 54. Aunt May leaves to go to Florida for a bit, right after she says goodbye to Peter and Gwen, who started to live with the Parker family after her father was killed by the imposter Spider-Man earlier in the story. However, just after May leaves, Peter finds out from Entertainment Tonight's interview with none other than Avi Arad saying that they're going to be making a Spider-Man movie starring Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi will be directing it. And hilariously, Peter's reaction caused him to accidentally break the door. However, Gwen isn't really too amused about the news since she still believes that Spider-Man killed George Stacy. In prison though, a villain does find out about the Spider-Man movie news, which is of course Dr. Otto Octavius, which he finds out thanks to one of the guards telling him about it. And it's also where we found out that the movie studio did also option Doc Ock's story from Otto's ex-wife, making her a consultant of the film, which is even more hilarious because Otto's ex-wife in the Ultimate Universe shares a similar name to his wife in Spider-Man 2. Though later on, Octavius does take control over his mechanical arms and uses them to break out of prison as well as the other inmates. But after the guard taunts Otto, we go to Midtown High and Peter's classmates' reactions to the movie, since in the Ultimate Universe it was a pretty big deal because just like in real life, it's Spider-Man. But it's basically talked about so much that Flash's best friend Kong in the Ultimate Universe talks about how he wants to be in the movie as an extra, with Peter not being too thrilled that a movie is being made about him, and we found out the reason why later. Though enough is enough, so Peter goes and confronts the filmmakers involved in the film, literally confronting Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, Avi Arad and the whole lot, telling them that they all suck, but also mentioned how he liked Evil Dead 2, which is pretty cool, but overall asking everyone how they could do this to him and why they didn't get his permission, with Avi Arad answering by saying they didn't need it because Spider-Man's a public domain and they got the rights from Octavius' ex-wife as well as Norman Osborn's half-sister. But before Sam Raimi could get more info from Spidey about Norman Osborn and what his motivations are, Peter tells him that if they want his help to make the movie, then they would have to pay him, with Avi Arad replying that they wouldn't mind paying him but he would have to show his face, which obviously Peter immediately declines and later realizes that they have been filming the entire time, even Arad admitting that just a few tweaks on the CGI and he was able to save a ton of money for the movie's production, making Peter leave out of frustration. In the next issue, issue 55, where we see a bunch of people auditioning as extras, most likely similar to the part in the first Spider-Man film where a young girl notices Spider-Man before Peter kicks the Green Goblin in the first fight during the festival scene. But obviously in this case, Kong got the role and let everyone at school know, with obviously Gwen being once again upset about the fact that a Spider-Man movie is being made, though both Peter and MJ do try and calm her down but storms off anyway. In the issue we also see Otto break into someone's house to lay low, but when he was watching TV he basically saw his ex-wife being asked about Otto's portrayal in the movie and responds by saying he's a tragic, pathetic man, and in this film they're gonna show that, making him pretty damn angry to say the least. And even later goes to set where they're filming a scene with Mysterio to attack her, which side note, they had Mysterio being played by Bruce Campbell himself, which I thought was amazing and kinda semi-predicts what his role was going to be in Spider-Man 4 had that movie been made. And while they were filming, Peter is watching from a distance, but as we know, no matter where Peter goes, the Parker lot will always follow him around, which in this case was in the form of Doc Ock, who came to find his ex-wife, which had led to a massive fight between Peter and Otto, even almost having Otto reveal Peter's name to the filmmakers, while they were also filming most of the fights. But it ends with Peter being beaten by Octavius and taking him overseas, and during that travel, Otto even took Peter's tooth out, which was pretty brutal. But eventually after Peter frees himself, they land in Brazil where Peter was finally able to best him once again. However, once he finds out he's in Brazil, the authorities there wants to question him, but since Peter doesn't want to get grounded, he gets on a plane to Jersey City and is literally trying to go home before Aunt May does. But while Peter was away, Gwen finds out that he was actually Spider-Man the entire time and literally thinks he killed her father, even pointing a gun at him, given to her by George. And while Gwen was distracted, Peter was quickly able to grab it and restrain Gwen long enough to explain everything to her, like how he didn't kill her father and was in fact the imposter Spider-Man instead. But in shock, she runs off, though later she does come back and forgives Peter, strengthening their bond in the process. 4 months later though, the Spider-Man movie has finally been released to the world, becoming a massive hit financially and critically, and we see a very angry Peter Parker while Kong is sharing his experience with a group of girls at school, which concludes the Hollywood saga in the Ultimate Spider-Man comic. In my opinion, it's one of my favourite arcs in the Ultimate Spider-Man comic book, mainly because of how meta and hilarious it is, as well as even though in universe it's supposed to be the first Spider-Man movie, it shares more similar to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, because that arc was coming out around the same time as Spider-Man 2, which is why Otto shares the same design as Alfred Molina's version in that film. However, what about you guys? What do you think of this arc? If you haven't read it yet, I really recommend you give it a read. And what are your thoughts about Spider-Man literally meeting Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi and Avi Arad? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. If you enjoyed this video, please like, and one more subscribe. To begin, Protocol 36.